couple of pragmatic things for you to think about in really the communications plan, regardless of the type of change that you're trying to affect within your organization. It may be the implementation of a technology. This is actually a derivative of a smart drive process that they have found that works very well. But it's important to have a communication plan. And we used to say in the military that no plan survives first contact. And in that context, you could say the plan itself is of limited value, but planning is essential. And it is through the planning that we do for communications and other things that we really create the ability to be agile in the implementation. And so kind of continuing on the example we talked about, a video-based safety program, this is a technology rollout. But I would draw your attention as you look at the very busy slide about the discussion about goals and why I talked before about the vision being important. And there are goals that are established within the organization that, if achieved, will achieve the organizational vision. And we set objectives that will achieve the goals. And then we identify the specific actions depending on your level within the organization that have to be taken. And there should be that thread of continuity between the actions that we take and the attainment of the vision that has been articulated. So this is just an example, and you can see the details that are associated there. But what you'll also pick up on is that the communication methodology, the methods in which we communicate, are pretty significant. We use every means at our disposal, to communicate the positive aspects of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And when we think we've communicated enough, we need to redouble our efforts at communication. One of the other things that I've learned is the importance of including our drivers' families. And oftentimes we can send communication to the home, which often the significant other may be the first one to actually read it, so that they understand what we're doing and why, because I think it helps to reinforce with them. We talk about retention of our fleet, that we truly care about our drivers. And we know that families will care that we care. So we have to be very broad-based and comprehensive in our communication planning and execution. You know, we have to recognize that we all have tiered accountabilities across our company. We have to make sure that as part of the change management and leadership, that we've identified those sensors and that they're focused on tracking the progress toward the goals that we've set. Are we measuring the right things? Are we measuring what we measure because we can or because we need to? And are they the right things? And it's important as we think about being able to enhance our communication and to be able to celebrate success toward attainment, that we have both quantitative and qualitative metrics that we track and communicate. And we also, like any other system, have to make sure that we have a feedback loop so informed course corrections can be made quickly and seamlessly when necessary. And so we have to make sure that we ask the right questions, we provide clear and concise answers to the field as those questions come up as being part and parcel of our overall communication strategy, irrespective of where you happen to serve within the organization. This is a much kind of a simpler diagram and really kind of reinforces the driver messaging being critical. There are occasionally cynics among your fleet, so the ability to be able to address the thoughts that they may have in a positive and constructive way becomes very important. Be planful, communicate face-to-face whenever possible, and demonstrate confidence and passion in what you're doing. When you do have driver meetings, face-to-face is certainly better. Listen to their questions. There will be a war storytelling part, but they will ask questions. We don't want to marginalize those questions. We know, as I mentioned before, that they've probably filled in what they think the gaps are and what they haven't heard. So we have to address those things. And we have to test our message to make sure that the message that we're communicating, oftentimes leaders simply repeat what they said previously more frequently and a bit louder. And if the people didn't get it the first time, they may not get it the fifth time. But by asking our people to brief us back and explain the concept or the purpose of the change that we're talking about, we can correct any misperceptions that might take place. So providing honest and transparent answers to their questions is critical to the success or failure of whatever initiative you're contemplating. So the bottom line, no matter your message, we've talked about use a variety of communication methods, certainly email. Some people prefer that. Printed letters that go home can be very powerful. Posters, meetings, text, those types of things. Here we mentioned on the slide the importance to engage with families so that they know that we care. And leaders have to, I used to encourage leaders to begin every conversation with a safety message and end it. But that's the ideal situation. It doesn't really matter when during the conversation you address the importance of safety. But if safety is to be a core value within your organization, it's important that it really be included in every communication throughout the organization that we have. And going back and reiterating the importance of changing our organization's beliefs to embrace change, to actually get excited by the prospect of change as opposed to being intimidated by it. Embracing the mentality of changing before we have to, as opposed to a phrase that many of you have heard, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the credo of root guards in my experience. And it's important, I think, to really challenge yourself introspectively. And I believe in my heart that if the pace of change external to your organization exceeds the pace of change within your organization, you're in trouble. You're probably on a slippery slope to obsolescence, and you don't even know it. So I would challenge us to take on that very difficult challenge of creating a culture that embraces change, where we actually become uncomfortable in our comfort. I glossed over it earlier, but there's a book called Danger in the Comfort Zone. I believe the author's name is Judith Barnwick, and she articulates it very much better than I do. But the status quo is often the vivid that is most clear in our people's mind's eye. So we have to understand that it's natural for people to create comfort zones for themselves and to become almost passive aggressive at times and being root guards against whatever change you are attempting to implement within your organization. Understand why people have that aversion to change and to begin to change the culture within the organization such that people get excited by the prospect of change as opposed to intimidated by it. That is very easy for me to say. It's certainly not easy to do, but it can be done. I want to close. One of the things that I've experienced that often when we introduce change within our organization, if we introduce a new program, a new technology, there are always people who are quick to say, well, let me give you 5 reasons why that is probably a bad idea. Let me give you 10 reasons if you persist in believing that it's a good idea. Let me give you 10 reasons why it would be really hard. And there are always those naysayers, cynics, and hand-wringers who are going to lead with and argue for not only their limitations, but your organization's limitations. I try to ignore those messages and those people. And this picture, I found this picture a while back, and I thought it really could be used as a metaphor for any number of things. But can you imagine what people would have said to, if you will, the parents of this tree to say, don't plant your seed on the edge of a rock outcropping. You can't grow a tree there. It'll never work. How many times have you brought an idea forward and have essentially heard it'll never work, or we've tried it before? And here's an example where Mother Nature created a beautiful tree when a lot of people would have said that that's not possible. So I would challenge all of us to, one, recognize that you can influence change within your company. You can influence the creation and leadership of the culture within your company, and in fact, you must. And if you give sanction to the negative and limiting beliefs that others will impose on you, it will negatively affect your potential. It'll negatively affect your performance. And we as an industry will not turn the corner to reverse the negative trend that I talked about at the beginning